love well-designed things. I love knowing what the best of any item is. What's the best designed thing? What's the thing that stood the test of time? What sort of captures the moment? I love that feeling when you see something new, some object or piece of clothing, and you look at it and you just think, oh, I love it. It gives you the chills. It makes you want to have it or try it on or touch it. When you see somebody wearing something and you just know they're so cool. Why are they so cool? Why did they choose that thing? And that's why I'm a stylist. I love when objects sort of stand in as a symbol for who you are and express some attitude or some vibe in a way that you might never say it out loud, but you're hoping to just give that feeling. I think what's so amazing about Cartier is that there's a very clear aesthetic that runs through everything. You know what Cartier is. Cartier is not minimal, but it's also not a flashy bling bling colored stone house. It's sexy, it's French, it's sort of always, for me, rooted in the 70s. My favorite Cartier watch is my own. It's a vintage Cartier Must. And I love it because it's all black. It's a very simple watch compared to the classic Tank. It has no numbers on it. It doesn't have any frame. It's just a gold rectangle with a black face and a black strap. It has the little blue sapphire for winding. This watch is so art directed. It's so minimal. It's so simple, but it's still Cartier. I don't know that this one actually is a Must. This is a 70s watch. I bought it at the Real. Okay, so the first Cartier Tank watch was designed by Louis Cartier in 1917 and it sold in 1919. The watch is called the Tank because we were in the middle of the war and there was a dispatch. Louis Cartier read about this new tank in the newspaper. And the shape of the watch is supposed to mimic the shape of a tank from above. Basically, there's two strong lines, which would be the sides of the tank, and then the watch face is actually the top. The wristwatch was like a very complex thing. It was not something people wore at the time. People used pocket watches.
Why, it's beautiful. I never expected to own a watch like this.
And women wore really highly decorative watches that were often brooches surrounded by diamonds that people wore as status symbols. They weren't meant for telling the time. So there was an element of just innovation involved in creating this watch. He was creating a timepiece that wouldn't live in a pocket. So instead of being upright all the time, it had to be able to lie flat on a wrist. It had to be able to work and maintain time without a constant temperature. So a watch in a pocket pretty much maintains the same temperature, where a watch on your hand is hot on the back and can be cold or hot on the front. Before the wristwatch, you would hold it in your hand and wind it. So this watch was designed to be wound without a key and with one hand, since it would be on the other wrist. So there was a lot of technical innovation involved in making the actual watch. The design of the watch was also really new. When the Tank watch was designed, the first issue of De Stijl was published. Louis Cartier was really inspired by this move away from Art Nouveau, towards Art Deco, towards neoplasticism. He was inspired by Mondrian's squares and rectangles. The tomboy aesthetic became super popular after and during the war in Paris. Women were more interested in wearing unornamented, essentially masculine things. Paris was in a time of cultural revolution. It was Josephine Baker, Louise Brooks, Art Deco, and the Tank watch. The elements that are most recognizable in a tank are the strong lines on the side. There's almost always Roman numerals. And then there's this small checkerboard square inside, which is called the chemin de fer, which is railroad track. So it was meant to evoke travel. The watch almost always has a cabochon sapphire on the end. Andy Warhol's famous for saying, I don't wind my Cartier watch, I don't wear it to tell the time, I wear it because it's the watch to wear, which I think is fabulous. It's so Andy Warhol. There's famous footage of Rudolph Valentino wearing it in a period film. Apparently he refused to take it off. He'd bought it, he loved it, he identified with it, and despite the fact that he clearly shouldn't be wearing a watch in the period the movie was set, he wore it anyway. The wild thing about looking at this wall of famous people wearing the Cartier Tank is that they don't really go together. The thing about them is They all kind of have good style and are interesting people. Slightly iconoclastic, but not that much in common. I mean, Andy Warhol and Rudolph Valentino, Princess Diana and Muhammad Ali, Patti Smith and Jon Hamm. You know, Duke Ellington is wearing the watch. Truman Capote is wearing the watch here. It's really interesting to me how many people have worn it over time and how little they have in common with each other, other than we kind of know them for being cool. The Jackie Kennedy watch has a really good tale. So it was purchased for her by her brother-in-law after she completed this 50-mile walk, which was a charity walk. And it had an inscription on the back, and she wore it all the time. It's a classic Tank watch. It came up for auction a few years ago, and it sold for more than double what the predicted price was, and Kim Kardashian bought it. It's interesting to me that Kim Kardashian was willing to spend so much money for a watch that's still produced, and that Jackie Kennedy and Kim Kardashian want the same thing. What's really incredible is during award season, the archivist for Cartier from Switzerland will come to New York, especially during the Met Ball. And she just brings the most incredible pieces. To hold a bracelet that belonged to Wallace Simpson, to hold a necklace that belonged to Elizabeth Taylor. These are sort of style icons and clothes horses who I love to read about. I love to look at their collections. They're people I'm interested in, and to actually touch their jewelry, to hold or touch things that they own is incredibly exciting to me. The Cartier building as a New Yorker really is important. It's like a glamorous, beautiful place. They do it up at Christmas time. It just sort of symbolizes Fifth Avenue. You know, luxury shopping in New York City. I only learned this story when they reopened the store, but apparently the entire building was bought for a strand of pearls. The man who owned the building sold the building to Cartier for one strand of pearls, which sounds crazy, but apparently pearls were more precious than diamonds at the time. It still doesn't seem like a fair trade. So this is the Tank Française, which is a watch that came out in 1996. The thing about this watch, for me personally, is that this was the watch a lot of people wore when I first moved to New York in the late 90s. It has a metal bracelet, and it has sapphire blue hands. It has all the other features that a Tank watch has. It's a classic, timeless watch. When I was an assistant to Tonne Goodman at Vogue, the Nouvelle Vogue collection came out, and this was a collection inspired by the French New Wave. And we used it all the time. We had it on every shoot for probably a year or two. And to me, it just symbolized this sort of like sexy jewelry that was real and fine, but had an artistic air. It had like a feel of modernity. And it's something that I truly love. This bracelet is from the Nouvelle Vogue line, and it looks like nothing. And that's something I always like. It's like incredibly understated luxury. It's hidden, it's very personal. People rarely notice this bracelet, and it's kind of like if you know, you know, which is my favorite. Seiko watches became popular because they were quartz watches, and people were buying them like crazy, and Cartier wanted to innovate and wanted to sort of capture that client back. So they opened a chain of boutiques called Cartier Must, which Americans pronounced Cartier Le Must, but it wasn't. The Must lighter, to me, is one of the greatest design pieces ever. It's beautiful, it's precious, but not too precious. It's for lighting a cigarette. I think it's so elegant to have something as mundane as a lighter, which everybody had in their pocket back then, come from Cartier. They had massive success with these lighters. As a result, they thought, oh, this is where the quartz watches can go. It was a little bit of luxury at a more affordable and easier to wear price point. They were a great watch. They still are. I wear it every day. I feel like brands never put out the things that you want, like their greatest hits. You're like, why did they make that new car? When they made that great car 20 years ago, I wish they'd just make that style again. And Cartier is actually making the watch again that I think is their chicest watch. There's a new Cartier Tank that's coming with this metal strap, this rose gold Cartier watch with the very, very classic Tank face, and then the rose gold bracelet. This watch still remains so modern. I'm really fascinated by these codes of the brand, the codes of the house that still continue to stay relevant, that still feel cool and interesting. Cartier is a brand I love because I find it sexy. It's a little bit subversive, it's a little bit of an artist's luxury brand, and I love that. I love simplicity, I love minimalism. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell. We'll be back with more episodes soon. Leave a comment, ask a question. See you later.